Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you're tuning in from. Welcome to Travel Massive London Live. My name's Matthew Gardiner. I'm your Travel Massive host. It's our first event of the year. It's January. So I think that that still gives me license to say Happy New Year. Joining me in a very entrepreneurial lineup with a fantastic panel of female founders who are building ventures within the travel and leisure sectors. London is full of entrepreneurial talent, and I'm really excited that over the next hour, I'm going to be able to bring to you the founders of Go8, Altavita, and Tripperbrood. They're going to share with us their stories, their challenges, and their successes. Most importantly, there'll be plenty of opportunity for you at home to put your questions to them. So please do write your questions in the comments. One of the things that I really like about taking Travel Massive live is that now anyone can participate regardless of your location. So also in the comments, I would love to hear where you're tuning in from. I can already see a hello from Melbourne. We've also got people from Boston, from LA. So please keep on saying hello there. I'm going to start by introducing our panelists. So please, a virtual welcome. Make some noise at home for Rebecca, the founder of Go8, Alexa, the CEO and founder of Tripperbrood, and Karolina, who's the co-founder and COO of Altovita. By way of introduction, I'm going to ask you all in turn to take 2 minutes to tell us what your business is all about and the story behind you setting up. I want to know what the light bulb moment was. Alexa, I'll go to you first of all.
Hi everyone, great to be here. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tripperbrood, and Tripperbrood is the award-winning tech startup shaping the future of family travel by creating the world's first AI-powered family travel booking experience. What that is doing, in essence, is recreating the sort of personalized experience that you get when you walk into a physical travel agent store and you speak to a real human being. They spend time getting to know you and your family. We're recreating that experience digitally and at scale for a vast underrepresented market, which is families worth over £500 billion and ripe for change. So the light bulb moment for me was as a mum of 3 kids. I had a very senior role in financial services, working for a company called Bloomberg. I was traveling with my kids. You know, it's one of those times where, you know, I hadn't seen my kids for a while. I could go to work when they're asleep, come back when they're asleep. And holidays felt really important as a connection time. And in summary, I spent 6 weeks researching across online travel agents to try and find that specific hotel I was looking for, which had the swimming pool in Hong Kong when we were going back to visit some friends on Hong Kong Island and a room that fit 5 people. And in summary, I failed to find that, and we ended up compromising on a self-catering apartment. But it really was arriving in Hong Kong and looking at that metropolis and saying, it can't be that there isn't a hotel room that would have fit my criteria. And that was a light bulb moment for me, where I realized that technology and data could do so much more for families than it does now.
Thank you, Alexa. In your opening there, you referenced the fact that Tripperbrood is award-winning, and I have yet to congratulate you, I think, on being named Travolution's 2020 Startup of the Year. So congratulations to you and your team on that.
Yeah, that's great. The award is right there.
Wonderfully intro. Karolina, if I could hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So I'm the co-founder and COO of Altavita. So we're a tech-enabled corporate housing company. And what we do is that we provide vetted and duty of care compliant accommodations for extended stays to companies and employees working from all over the world.
Thank you very much. I don't think, do you know what? I was going to ask you a question, but I'm going to come back to that because I'm going to introduce Rebecca first of all. Rebecca, over to you. Oh, sorry, Rebecca, I've lost audio on you there. Just whilst we're getting Rebecca back, I can see lots more hellos coming in from different cities around the world: Los Angeles, Las Vegas, lots and lots from London. And hello there from Alex Bainbridge, who's a serial entrepreneur based in London and a regular at Travel Massive events and a previous speaker as well. Do we have you back, Rebecca? No, perhaps your AirPods aren't connected to the laptop. Just whilst we're trying to bring Rebecca back there. Now, 2020 could not have been more difficult for the travel sector. Karolina, could you give me some insight into how the pandemic has treated your business, how it's affected Altavita?
Yes, of course. So it was obviously when the pandemic started, it was a terrible moment for the business because we didn't know what would basically happen. That was back in March and April. So in terms of the relocation and global mobility, so the sector where we operate, there was not much happening. So we were basically supplying accommodation to assignees who were extending their accommodation because if I remember correctly, there was a moment where for about maybe 2 months, the borders were entirely locked and there was no movement. However, throughout the 2020, I can say that the relocation market has picked up. So we were really happy about that. I think that as of May, the number of relocations started to increase. And actually, we're in such a particular sector that basically serves the companies. And we know that some companies are even benefiting during the pandemic. So when it comes to, for example, Tesla, they gained 800% in their market value, or perhaps Amazon or Shopify has really tripled in value. So they are companies which are doing well and continue to have the need to relocate their employees and or perhaps hire new employees from abroad. So we've realized that our sector, when it comes to temporary housing, actually was not doing too bad. And at this stage where we keep expanding, we've decided that we're not gonna be stalled with the business, that we are going to continue expanding our operations internationally. We're going to continue our fundraise. We will continue hiring new people even during this time. And yeah, it has proven to be a fantastic strategy for us because we've actually grown by 300% last year.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic to hear a travel business speaking so positively. 300% growth rate.
Yeah. It's a huge surprise for us as a business.
Same question to you, Alexia. It'd be, just for context of people listening, it would be great to have some insight into how your business was affected by the pandemic last year.
Yeah, well, for us, we raised our first round in October 2019. So in many ways, that was I wouldn't say lucky, but timing was good for us in terms of we were focused in 2020 on building a product that satisfied the needs of families. And so given that we were funded going into 2020, our focus really has been over the last year on building our proof of concept that went live in September on our website. A couple of things that happened is we timed that launch right between 2 lockdowns in the UK and managed to get some really exciting traction numbers and sort of 10% conversion, for example, of people seeing hotels to buying one of them. And then lockdown came in again and we were being as agile as we could be in terms of, pivoting from, focusing on traction to going back to building a product for scale. So we then went into partnership with Expedia Group, and we are about to launch a product that scales from 5 destinations that's live now to 550,000 destinations. So there's a lot of products and tech work that's gone into the mix. But final thing I'd say is, we've been able to find really unique ways to reach out to families during lockdown where they're at. Families, any parents on the call will know, homeschooling kids is really tough. And you get a kind of, mixed bag of, schools are doing a great job, but it's not necessarily consistent the amount of information they're giving. And so what we've done is we've created country activity packs that help kids to explore different countries, their cultures, cook local recipes, learn local phrases, do games and crafts. And we've had an amazing reception. So we've now done 10 of these packs, and we've created a sort of lockdown subscription list where people essentially sign up to our mailing list to get these 10 packs, and they get 2 a week over a 5-week period. And we've got some incredible Trustpilot review scores, so, you know, kind of rated excellent on Trustpilot. But importantly, I suppose for any travel business out there, just to be encouraged, which is over the last 10 days, our mailing list has tripled. And this is a mailing list that we've been growing over the previous 18 months. So just to give you an idea of scale. So there is definitely a shift in appetite from, you know, people out there wanting to start traveling again, and certainly wanting to dream while they can.
Yeah, I think, Alexa, it's a really clever thing you've done there. I mean, what a great way to grow your database at a time when, you know, travel has the restrictions on it that it does. And your last pack was on Hawaii, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah.
What are your top tips for Hawaii very quickly then?
Well, it was one of the best activities we did was an exploding volcano. And I can vouch for it because my 3 kids did it in the garden. I've never seen them so excited. I mean, it was so simple, a bottle and some sort of like fairy liquid. This thing exploded, they were going crazy. So, you know, I think, you know, there are many...
Bring a live demo on. That would have been fun.
There are many amazing things about Hawaii, but for some reason the kids just really gravitated to this idea of making an exploding volcano. So that was probably for them the highlight of the pack.
Super. And we've got Rebecca back. So just to go back to the beginning, Rebecca, if it'd be great to have an introduction to Go Ape and what the light bulb moment was for you when you took that step and set the business up in the first place.
Yeah, so Go Ape has been going now for 18 years. And when we first set up, it was 2002. And sort of quite similar to Alexa, back in those days, I had a 6-month-old baby, and we were traveling in France, and we came across a outdoor adventure activity, and we went into the woods and just saw people up in the trees, and it was amazing, all different ages, 10, 18, 30-year-old, 70-year-old, and just laughing and having this amazing experience together. And we just thought, why is nobody doing this in the UK? You know, this looks amazing. And we came back to the UK and started talking to Forestry England and various people. And I guess I was at this point where I'd been working in the corporate world. My husband had been working in that world as well. And we wanted to be able to bring up the kids together, to be there at tea time, to just enjoy, and for them to be part of our journey. And this very much kind of fitted in. And we wanted something where we could really be proud of what we were doing, that we could offer something that was challenging, and something that could grow with us as we grew the business. So yeah, that was the start of our journey. That was the eureka moment. And it all started with one course in Thetford Forest in 2002. And it has grown to now 34 sites in the UK and 14 in the US. So
I'd be really interested to hear about your US expansion, actually. It's, you know, taking a business like Go Ape overseas is a massive milestone. How did that come about, and what were the surprise challenges?
So that came about. We were thinking about the US, and we actually met husband and wife. We're a husband and wife team, and we met a husband and wife team who had been to 6 of our courses, and they absolutely loved Go Ape. And they set up and came and chatted to us and said, we think that this would be brilliant in the US. We would love to do it. And it was just that right moment when we thought it was time to sort of move on, and they had big aspirations. They could see it being 40 courses. We're actually now at 14, and you know, we just liked them. We liked their enthusiasm. We saw in them our sort of what we were like, you know, 10 years before, 8 years before, and so they went and set up, and we've kind of supported them. We've moved on, and we've actually got a new team running it now, but it's doing brilliantly, and it has had its challenges along the way, But I think because we're very much a purpose-driven business, they've managed to bring that to the US as well, and it's worked brilliantly.
We've got someone commenting that they've actually been on one of the Go Opens in the US as well.
Thank you, Marissa. That is great. Love to hear about your experience. That's brilliant.
Sticking with the theme for a moment of international expansion, Karolina, Altavita is obviously expanding. You've got several offices overseas already. You know, in your opinion, when is the right time to expand overseas?
That's a very, very good question. Not too early, not too late for sure, but when's the right balance? Well, we started to expand overseas, actually overseas or in abroad, I would say, extremely early on, because we're a corporate housing provider. So by the nature of our clients, we need to be a global company. Imagine large companies like Microsoft, perhaps they will for sure have regional offices all over. And if you want to get in the sector, then you definitely need to be more than just a European player to be taken seriously. So first of all, what we did with my co-founder, Vivi, we decided that we definitely need to kind of find the market fit first, because you are working as a startup with a very limited amount of resources, be it on the people side, but also from the fundraising perspective. We were lucky enough that I think that within the first 6 months, we've started to have the right clients that we wanted. We were actually revenue generating literally from the first few months, really, when we launched our MVP. And we're basically focusing on extended midterm stay and offering high quality accommodations to the employees. We started in a market where we didn't have many competitors at the time. That was Central and Eastern Europe. I'm originally from the Czech Republic, so it was easier to test the product there. And as soon as we started to see some level of success, we basically went full on and started to aggregate inventory onto our marketplace. Our business model, per definition, is asset and capital light. So we had the luxury to really move forward and through technology start to expand fast. And then obviously had to follow with a proper team on the ground.
Thank you very much, Karolina. Lots of things there that I'm keen to pick up on, and I've been scribbling away. You were making various points. But firstly, we have a question that's come in from Gal Kenny. Gal Kenny is the founder and managing director of a travel recruitment company that specializes in executive search. Her question is, and this is to all of you, how have you had to adapt your leadership style, in particular when it's come to managing virtual teams, which is something we've all found ourselves doing over the last 12 months? Anyone can jump in on that one.
I'm happy to jump in on that one first. So we've always been very transparent as a business, very open with our teams, but we realized that people needed to catch up regularly. And so we set up Zoom meetings for the whole company every week. And we just got people to come on and ask anything, any questions, and just updated them on, you know, what we were putting in place. We had lots and lots of people on furlough because we had to close from March the 20th until July the 4th. So we had a lot of people who were going through really uncertain times. We just felt that they needed to have a set time every week where we were just there, all the directors of the business, very open and just ready to answer anything and reassure them as much as we can. And in terms of adapting style, I think it was just, you know, as a business, we like to keep in touch. And so there were lots of quizzes. There was lots of kind of reassuring emails out about all sorts of phone lines and things and help and support, and just being sort of really open and there for everybody.
So I guess the thing that I was taking from that was, you know, providing some consistency, regular communications, and being open, honest with those communications.
Yeah.
Karolina or Alexa, is there anything that you would like to add to that question about managing virtual teams and adapting?
Yeah, definitely. It's really funny because from the new recruits from 2020, I actually did not meet anyone physically, which is really like crazy. And you need to really make sure that the team is going to be close to each other. They work with each other like on a daily basis, but also as a startup, there needs to be the same drive, motivation, and DNA from among the team members. That's super important for us. So creating that sense of community, it's extremely challenging during this time. So what we, for example, do is we literally have a virtual office open the entire day. Anyone can come in. Most of the time, our guest experience reservations team are on it. We understand that part of the day, we can't just work. It's not about it. You also need to build relationships. You need to chit chat. You need to tell jokes to your coworkers. Super important. Otherwise, there's not going to be the team spirit. So we really encourage that. And then, we just hope that we're going to be together physically as soon as possible, but it's very unlikely at this stage.
I like that idea of a virtual office that people can drop in and out of.
Yeah, really.
It's a lot of fun.
I had a couple of things because I think we're doing similar things in terms of wanting to recreate that sort of office collaboration virtually. So we do daily stand-up. So at 10 o'clock every morning, the whole company comes on a call and we go through sort of actions for the day. We use Slack for communication. So we use some of their automated services, and we have a channel where everybody every day comes in and sort of reports what they did the day before, what they're going to do the next day. And although that might feel like micromanaging, actually the idea came from the team because they were like, actually for us, it's like knowing what everyone's doing makes me feel more connected. And it means we're more productive when we speak. And for us, with the stage that we're at is that super creative stage. So we've been leveraging tools like Miro is one great example. We use a lot of Miro, which is that idea of sort of like virtual whiteboards and how to create mind maps. And a lot of our meetings when we go into creative spaces are a lot around kind of like virtual postcards and noting down ideas and prioritizing actions. And so a lot of the time we end up sort of just using the kind of tools you'd use in an office when you walk up and you sort of brainstorm and collaborate together, but we use that virtually. The final thing I'd say is probably on a Friday night, we have a games session, which is sort of about 4:30. We just jump on and play games. Anyone who's around. So I've got two of my teammates are Nintendo Switch aficionados. So they're playing Mario Kart quite a lot together. And then as a team, we jump on and do pretty competitive games. But it's a great way to get to know people because, as Karolina said, some people in the team still have not met face to face, and yet there's this incredible bond that they feel because they've been through life experiences together. It's really strange, actually. It's sort of like it doesn't feel too different now, the virtual and real world. Yeah,
there has definitely been a blurring. Yeah, Karolina, Alexa was talking about the recruitment piece and the DNA that you're trying to establish and trying to do that in a remote world. And I guess when you and I first met, and disclosure to people watching, Alexa lives down the road from me, and we've got a really good pub in between our houses. But when we first met, I think one of the things that really impressed me was your determination and then success in hiring and bringing into your business really top talent, taking into account that you weren't even up and running yet. And I imagine a lot of people listening would love to know how you did that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think back. I think back in the day when we could network, I remember the first sort of couple of months of TripperbRood was all about getting in front of as many people as I could. I kind of had this motto, which is I'm never going to turn down a meeting, I'm never going to turn down an event. And my poor husband was having to do quite a few of the legwork back at home while I kind of gallivanted around London. But through that sort of intense period, I think, there were some amazing moments where just having been in the room, things start to happen. I mean, our first advisor was actually, I was introduced to him through an Oxford University networking event, and I spoke to someone I didn't know who then introduced me to someone else who I didn't know who introduced me to my advisor. And then that advisor then turned out to be, he was the NED of Virgin Holidays, super experienced. He was the first person on board. And getting that first advisor was then the snowball effect that then one of our first investors, a lead investor at the moment, it was formerly the global head of marketing for Expedia Group. And I think that, that was a great next step. And then after him came the global head of travel for American Express. And I won't bore you, but it's just been that kind of building up of credibility where, again, through serendipity might be the right word, but anyway, there is those moments where I was just in the right room at the right place, but it was engineered because of the amount of times I've been in a room.
Yeah.
There was that, time again where like George Osborne was walking past me, followed by somebody called Michelle Tareed, who ended up introducing me to our investor director who sits on our board, Charles Petruccelli, who's the Amex guy. And has subsequently invested in the company. And so it's just one of those moments where you bring together this amazing group of people. And it started off by that, convincing that first person who, Giovanni Donaldson, who took a bet on me when I was just me and nothing else. And we just had some great conversations. And from that, I started building the credibility in the business and using my existing network and new networks to be able to bring on some really amazing people. But I think it came also from the premise of I can't do this alone. Like, I come from outside the travel industry into the travel industry, and I have a lot of experience in family travel, but my experience is very much in technology and data. And I went on a mission to bring and surround myself by people that had been there and done that and knew how to make a travel business scale successfully. So that was probably a few things that I did proactively to make it all happen.
Super, thank you. We've had a few more hellos, including one I can see from Frank Fur. Then we've also had a comment here from Alex Bainbridge, who said it sounds like you're all on single or shared time zones rather than overlap situations where actually the reality is, I think, Karolina, you've got offices now in several countries. I'm going to get them wrong if I try and name them, so.
That's right. We have office we have in Singapore, then London, and then we have representatives in the US. So actually it's working all across the time zones. So we're lucky enough that we're sitting in Europe, so we can deal with both. But it's very difficult to get everyone on the same call if you need people from Singapore, Houston, and London to meet up.
I mean, that has always been one of the big advantages of London as somewhere to headquarter a business.
For sure.
It's in my day job, it's something I have all the time, and being in London, it kind of works. And then obviously, Rebecca, you're dealing with the US quite regularly.
Yeah, quite regularly. But that we actually, our MD from the US spent a couple of months in London, so we have spent a lot of time with him. It ended up being 3-4 months, so that kind of worked well. And it's quite easy. You just make sure you're in the afternoon, speaking to him in the afternoon, bringing him in. So it's not a big problem. And the US stands on its own feet now. We launched it. We started in 2010. So it's very much a business that stands on its own 2 feet. We just share the best ideas and work together and collaborate where we can make a difference. And I think it's quite interesting now, just hearing people commenting about loving GoApe in the US. It has been fantastic for us that we've got that sort of great experiences happening between us. Not just sharing, but sharing customers too. And we've realized that we need to collaborate much more in our marketing. And, part of being on this is brilliant from that point of view. There's such a big opportunity for us at GoApe for the whole, when the overseas travel market opens up again, particularly having 3 courses in London now, there's just enormous opportunity. And as you can imagine, when we opened up again in July, just from the UK business, which was all staycation at that point, the pent-up demand was absolutely huge because people were just so keen to get out there, get some fresh air, just bond with their family and their friends. So, it'll be the same when overseas opens up, but we're thinking when we are allowed to open, it's going to be incredibly busy again, Easter and probably summer as well. But And quite interestingly, from the point of view of London, our actual numbers for London for 2020 were just not nearly as good as the rest of our courses, which we had our best year ever across most of them. But in London, I think the fact that we didn't have the tourism market, which is normally brilliant for us, it really hit us quite hard. So can't wait for those days to come back again.
No, I can imagine the dynamics of the London market and the movement of Londoners meant that, yeah, I can see why that would have performed very differently from certainly your other UK locations. Of the businesses represented today, GoApe is, has been around far the longest. You've referenced the date of the US expansion. You referenced when you first set up. As an entrepreneur, once you've built something which is really successful, how do you make sure you don't lose your way?
I think that's really, really hard. And there have been different sort of periods that we've gone on along the journey. One of the things that we did quite early on, we did a business growth program with Cranfield. And that helped us to build out a plan and work out, how we should really challenge ourselves. It's quite easy to sort of sit on your laurels. We were doing really well, expanding and opening 5 sites a year from about 2012 up to 2016, 2018. We then had to look again and go, well, what is the next big thing for us? So, there are all the sort of things that you look at, looking at what the customers are saying, looking at, what they want more of. But I think a large part of it is not losing sight with the customer being at the core of your business, constantly looking at what they're telling you, looking at their feedback, looking at what they love about your business, and just not losing sight of that. The people that we have, they stay with us a long time, actually, and some of them go and do different things and then they come back again, which is amazing. But really looking at your talent pool, looking at what you need to do to attract brilliant people. And I think that's about being a business that has got a purpose, which we always have done. We're all about encouraging everyone to live life adventurously. And the sort of people that we attract just love that. That's part of their life. They're the sort of people who want to be outside on an adventure. And GoApe is part of that adventure and part of their lives. So as long as you stay with your values at the core of your business, then you keep the people that you want in the business and you keep attracting people to come. So it has been a journey, but I think, you just need to sort of keep coming back to what is at the heart of your business. And we're about to start growing again. We settled down and didn't grow for a few years, but there's still a lot of opportunity, not just in the US, but in the UK as well. And I think outdoor has been such a big focus that, the opportunity has got even more. And as we come out of the pandemic, people are just going to be going, well, what's out there? What can we do? So lots of opportunities to come.
You talked about the importance of purpose when it comes to talent attraction and retention. Do you think purpose is getting more important? Do you think it's of equal importance to when you set up the business, or do you think that's something people are looking for more than ever?
I think it's something that people are looking for more than ever. It's what people ask us. People want to know. We always have our values on all of our job descriptions. We are just starting on the B Corps journey this year. So that's something that we're going to go down. It may take us a year, it may take us 2 years, but we're a naturally powered adventure. So we start off at a good place for B Corps, but there's always things that you can do a lot better. So looking again at environmental sustainability. And I think that people will start to ask if you're not doing that, or if that's not part of what you look at on a day-to-day basis, why not? And they'll want to know that. We have a really young work, our people are all quite young. So a lot of our instructors are 20 to 30. And particularly at that age group, people want to know, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And how are you making the world a better place? So, people who come to us, they come and have an adventure. We hope they'll go off and have many more adventures, not necessarily with Go Ape, but elsewhere, and leave with a smile on their face, which they do. So I think the B Core journey is very much part of that. We've always had purpose at the center of what we do, but I think that will help us really direct that focus and really build on our core values and take it to another place. So excited about that.
Thank you. I now want to take the conversation in the direction of scaling up and funding. But also, I'm encouraging everyone who's watching, keep putting your questions across. Fantastic opportunity here to put your questions to three entrepreneurs. So please type them in the comments, and I will put them across. I'm going to refer here actually to a report from Ernst & Young and TechCrunch. It talks about the numbers of, sorry, I'm just going to have to refer to this here, the dollars dished out in startup funding in 2019. 3% going to female-founded businesses and 10% going to male-female co-founded businesses. So in total, only making up 13% of all seed-funded venture and corporate venture dollars in 2019. I'll start with you on this one, Alexa. Why do you think female-led businesses find it harder to attract funding?
Yeah, great question. I'm very passionate about this too. I think there's a huge challenge at the moment around bringing out role models for women, showing that it is actually possible to break through the barriers that I think exist when you are a female founder. I mean, one of those many examples is if you have children and you're having to balance life of being a mum with actually working, that's a real roadblock and a real challenge. And when you couple that with the sort of money that you get and you can justify it as a seed stage business, that's often less than you would pay for nursery fees or nanny fees or even childminder for your children. So logistically, it's a nightmare, which is, you're going to earn less than you need to essentially cover your costs. You're going to have to work out where to find the time to balance, the many things that you have to do as a parent with, with the role that you're doing as an entrepreneur. And then on top of that, there are many studies around the biases against women in fundraising conversations. And essentially, that's probably down to the fact that the VC world is predominantly male-driven. And I know that they are doing things about that, and they're changing that on purpose, trying to bring in more female VCs. But ultimately, there is a very male-dominated world, and they have certain expectations of how an entrepreneur would craft a storyline and would deliver a pitch, and the sort of, let's say, the sort of skill sets that they would have. And actually, female entrepreneurs have so many skill sets to bring to the table that make the businesses have huge potential in terms of scale and opportunity. But we treat these conversations slightly differently because we come from a different lens. And so you'll find that that may trigger often some of these inherent questions in people's mind. Can they juggle? Can she juggle this? Will she be able to stand up in a room and be heard? Will she be able to make the difficult decisions that will be needed to scale this business? And I think ultimately back to my first point, which is the more women that can break through those boundaries, i.e. start a business, successfully raise money and scale that business, the more that, first of all, female entrepreneurs will see examples of other women doing it. So if they can do it, maybe I can too. And also more funders will be forced to consider, when you've got some great opportunities to fund businesses, why do I keep funding male-dominated businesses? So I'm so thrilled that you brought this panel together, Matthew, because this is, a great opportunity for us to start unpacking some of those myths.
See, but I mean, and you talk about role models. We've put 3 on the screen today, but actually, when you look at who signed up for today's event, the amount of female founders who are currently tuning in and listening from all over the world with really interesting and diverse businesses. I could actually do this with 3 female entrepreneurs almost on a weekly basis and keep that going for quite a long time. I don't know how the travel sector compares to other industries. That's not something I particularly have an insight into in terms of the number of businesses being set up. And in terms of the funding comparison, I don't know if anyone on the panel does. That's probably an unfair question. But let's go back to some of the barriers that Alexa was bringing up there. Karolina, Rebecca, do you have a view on that in terms of barriers in particular that might be leading to that massive gap we're seeing in funding?
Well, I think Alexa raised one, which is we haven't taken investment, but we went down the route. And so we did start to talk to private equities, and I couldn't believe there were just no women. It was just extraordinary. And we talked to a lot of them, and they're literally all male teams, which I think is just incredibly surprising. And I think you're right. I think they're starting to change that. I sort of noticed when I researched that there are more women coming through, and I think that will start to change. Now, I'm not saying that that necessarily precludes from women getting funding, but I do think it is just a strange place at the moment, and I think that needs to change. But I think it is changing. I mean, if you look at things like Fast Track 100 and how many fantastic businesses are coming through there that are female-led, I've got locally a great support team of women founders, and you know, that is fantastic. So I do think it is changing. And if I look at our business and the amount of females coming up in our business, which has changed, we didn't have as many at the beginning. It's brilliant. And I just think they're amazing the way they juggle, especially at the moment. It's just crazily difficult, but I think it is changing. I think we won't be having these same conversations in 3 years, 5 years' time. It's starting to change.
Certainly the numbers on the EY report point to the fact that they are changing. And, you know, if you go back 5 years, you know, those numbers, you know, are dire. So the balance is changing. And I guess I'm making a point here about how funding pots are divided. But actually, what I'm not coming to the table with is the knowledge of how many people are going forward for funding in the first place and where they come from as well. So it might not necessarily all be down to a bias. It could also actually be to the barriers that stop female founders coming forward for funding in the first place. We've got a question come in from Rosanna, directed to yourself, Alexa. At that early stage, how did you deal with the unhelpful and negative vibe and comments of friends and or family telling you must be mad? And how did you keep a positive mindset? And which resources did you draw from?
Oh, Rosanna, that's such a great question. You know what? I would say I have an incredible family around me. My parents are entrepreneurs themselves. And my husband is a co-parent, a co-partner. And, you know, in situations where we both have to step in, he will often be the first one to step in. So I had the opportunity to be surrounded by people that caught my vision, and actually at points in my journey where I've just gone, I don't know if I could take the next step. You get to that fatigue stage where you're just like, I just got to keep going. But it was at those moments where my parents or James would tell me, you've got this, and that's made a huge impact to me. But at the same time, directly answering your question, there have been some people who have taken that view of, why would you do this? You know, you've left a really well-paid job in the city, and now you're paying yourself peanuts and starting a business. Why would you do that when you've got young kids? And I think it is about who you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with a tribe of people that tell you that you can do it. And you know, that's something that I've sort of gone about doing in my life, but probably more so in the last year. And it you know, it just means so much getting that text message from friends. I mean, the other day someone just randomly text messaged me and said, I just want to say that I think you're doing an amazing job, and I'm so proud of you. And it just almost brought me to tears, because I was like, that, you know, that's amazing. She didn't need to do that. But, you know, and I think it is invariably hard, but I think you can choose who you listen to and the voices that you listen to, and holding on to the fact that you believe in this idea, and that people around you believe in this idea, the right people believe in it, for me has been enough to get me through the hard times. And I'd probably give a final shout out to my co-founder, Ketan. So I brought in a co-founder, probably because I'm a bit of an extrovert and need someone along the journey with me. And he's been a phenomenal support. Like me, he left a really great job to join Tripperbrood, and has taken a lot of personal sacrifices. So I think us, again, being on the same journey has been really, really important. We're both making similar sacrifices. We've both got young kids, and we're both, you know, dedicating our lives to trying to change the future for families when they travel. And so that, you know, having that joint mission and purpose with the people around you is so powerful.
It's certainly a great takeaway about surrounding yourself with the right people. I think that's true, whatever you're doing in life. And as you've brought up co-founders, Alexa, personally, I think one of the most important decisions you will ever make when you're deciding to start up a business is who you're going to business with. You know, in many cases, that's you know, it could be a make or break decision. Karolina, you've obviously got a co-founder as well. How do you make 100% sure that you've got the right partner in crime? When do you know that you found the right co-conspirator?
That's a really, really good question. And I think that it's one of the key to success in your startup career. You definitely need to be on the same page when it comes to the working ethics. I think by now everyone knows that working for a startup is not a 9-to-5 job. If you want to achieve something, you also need to really work hard for it. So I think that number one, that would be that. It's also the experience, the fact that you need to know that your co-founder is able to multitask and be able to brainstorm, you know, about the hiring policy, but also about technology. So various skill set, I think, is also key. It definitely needs to be someone who has the same drive and also passion for the industry. So if I would give you an example, so my co-founder and CEO of Altavita, Vivi, we come from different continents, but we're like sisters. It's really awesome to see. She comes from a real estate background, and as I do. Our both parents were entrepreneurs. And she was also relocating throughout her career for multiple times, from Hong Kong to London, Jakarta, New York. And I also lived in multiple places like India, Gabon in Africa, or perhaps Paris in France. So we really share the same mindset and determination to make the business a success.
That's amazing. And I didn't know that you'd lived in quite so many places.
Yeah, it was actually, I forgot to mention what was my light bulb moment. That was precisely that. I actually booked an accommodation with an OTA, which was not vetted. And I was left sort of in the middle of the street with my luggages in New Delhi, because my host never showed up. And also with my entire team, actually, which was perhaps even worse than if I would be alone. And yeah, that's how we actually started the concept, to develop the concept of Altavita, which is precisely offering verified accommodation, professionally managed homes to corporate travelers.
That sounds like a moment that's hard to forget.
Yeah, that was definitely a memorable moment, not only for myself.
Let's talk about scaling up. So, well, we'll start with you, Karolina. I mean, you're currently, you know, in scale up mode. What are the main challenges that growth is bringing? Because, you know, some people think the challenge is getting going, but actually often the challenge is to manage the rate of growth. And that's something else which, you know, can bring a number of startups down.
I would definitely like to share my lessons learned from 2020. The first is learn how to delegate. Don't be a control freak. which I am constantly battling. But it's important to learn how to trust the team, and they will do an amazing job. Second, it's definitely surround yourself with experts. Neither Vivi or myself, we are not from the hospitality sector at this stage. We really need very well-trained people who went through some level of hospitality training or spent some time with hotel chains, and they're able to deliver a perfect guest experience to our clients. We also need to constantly think ahead of the game. We are a technology platform, but technology it's not like extremely difficult. We operate in a sector which is quite, I would say, traditional. We're used, all of us, to book through OTAs with instant live availability and rates, but it's not the case for corporate travelers, particularly when it comes to extended stays. So if you want to scale up your business, you constantly need to also convince people and mentors to vouch for your product, be the voice of your product. So I think that's super important to scale up, and we couldn't do without it.
Super. And same question to you, Rebecca. I mean, what advice would you give people, and what did you see as the main challenges when it came to scaling up Go8?
I think one of the challenges is what can happen, I think, when you're trying to scale up is you put the team in, so you sort of build up the overhead, and actually it's that transition into having a much bigger team. The communication is much more difficult, and you become just less agile. So, how you get around that, I mean, communication is absolutely key. But I think you need to just make sure that you keep the agility in your business. And that, part of that is just making sure that the people that you bring in, the teams, that they keep on working really, really well together, and that they keep very focused on the overall objectives, and that you don't slow up. I'm not saying this very eloquently, but I think you can just build a bigger team, and you think that's the right thing to do because you need 8 people in your marketing team, and you need whatever in the other teams. But actually, you just need people who are adaptable, who are agile, and who remain focused on what the business is all about and what you're trying to do. And so I would say that some of the things that held us back is people maybe just who come in and they've got a certain way of working and they don't adapt to the way that Go8 works and they don't become part of the culture quickly enough, and everything slows down a bit. And if you don't realize that straight away, you're in danger of just things not happening as fast as they used to. And, so however big we've got, and we are quite big now, we have about 900 people working for us, during the summer months. So that's a lot of people. But you've got to keep that agility and that flexibility, and just keep challenging yourself, keep bringing in new things. So yeah, I think there's a very difficult phase where you grow, but you've got to have more people, you've got to build the overhead, but you just don't want to lose the agility in the business as well.
One of the key things I heard there, Rebecca, was expand your marketing team. So I think that should be a key takeaway for anyone who's listening. Lots more jobs for marketers.
Expand your marketing team, but keep them very agile.
The time has gone on us extremely quickly. So if anyone is sitting at home with a burning question, then now is the time to type it. One question I'm going to direct to you all actually is, I don't know if it's even a question. It's what do you want me to ask you? What do you think that we should be talking about when we're talking about setting up new ventures, when we're talking about entrepreneurism, when we're talking about female role models? What's the conversation that we should be having right now?
I think for us, it was super important to simply just find the product market fit, because without it, it just doesn't work. I mean, you can't build a company for like yourself and your co-founders So I think that the early positive experience from your first customers is going to be really key for the future.
How do you do that, Karolina? How do you make sure that you're building something that is right for your market and not something that's right for you?
Right. It started as a product coming from frustration, but actually we discovered that there's more of us, frustrated corporate travelers. But yeah, fair enough. I think that it's constantly doing workshops with your clients, talking to the leaders of the industry, really getting to understand what are their pain points and how you can very easily through technology fix basically issues. The idea might be good, but you can take a very light approach and build feature by feature, test everything on your future clients, consult with professionals from the industry, I think is key. So I would say that some startups are literally afraid to communicate about their product. I think that you should over-communicate about it with the right people.
Super. And Alexa, if you'd been in my chair today, what would you have asked yourself?
Well, I think the thing that I'd sort of lean into what Karolina is saying is take more risks, because I think that's one of the repeated feedback sometimes I get, particularly around female entrepreneurs. They don't take enough risks. And actually, building a business from scratch is all about taking risks. And it's calculated risk, but it's essentially being willing to fail. So working out what's the problem we're trying to solve? How do we think we can solve that? Let's test the assumption and let's fail fast or win big. And I think that iterative process of be willing to go out with something, even if it doesn't quite hit the mark, but it helps you get to the next stage, which is then moving closer and closer to that point which Karolina was saying around product market fit. And for us, certainly at Tripperbrood, that's been what's been so exciting over the last couple of months. And it doesn't always make you popular. You'll have people, you have investors that will turn around and say, why are you spending money on marketing? This is January 2021. This doesn't make any sense. Nobody's traveling. And then we've had our biggest marketing spend this month and we've had astronomical growth. So it's also taking those calculated risks, but then being able to defend yourself and saying, I've thought of the pros and cons. I understand that, sometimes you'll take feedback and it'll be valid, but sometimes you have to stick to your guns and say, this is something that I want to run with. So that taking of risks, I think, is just a wonderful thing for any entrepreneur to embrace.
Super. And Rebecca, what else would you like to add to the conversation in our final minutes?
So a couple of things. I think as a woman, we've mentioned the juggling, and you do juggle if you've got a family and you've got kids. It is a juggle. And I'm thinking back to the early days, but I didn't have much time to myself at all. I think you need to try and find some space for yourself, some time for yourself as well. And I think you need to surround yourself with other brilliant women, inspiring, brilliant, supportive women. Find them, maybe that fits in with the time that you have out because you run with them or you kayak with them or whatever your thing is. But just make that time and just have brilliant people supporting you on the journey. That would be my advice.
Super, thank you, Rebecca. We've had a interesting comment in about the names of companies that I won't put to you individually, but something for everyone listening to reflect on and think about in terms of when we name our businesses. Do we have capital space capital, or do we merge the word and have capital with no space, or do we start our brand name with lowercase and then suddenly throw in a capital midway? So something to reflect on. My final question to all of you is, what are you most excited about when it comes to your businesses in 2021? If I could put that to you first of all, Rebecca.
So I am excited about the fact that I think what we are offering right now is what people need. And so I think more than ever, we're going to be welcoming people back. We're going to be giving them an amazing experience. And I think we're going to carry on reaching new people, which is what happened last year, which is just incredibly exciting for us. So there's a completely new customer that is coming, where Go8 may not have been the thing. They might have been going overseas or doing something different, but they're coming to us. So it's exciting to be welcoming new people and starting them on their adventure journey. So I'm looking forward to lots more of that this year.
Super, thank you, Rebecca. And Alexa?
Yeah, for me, I'm super excited about the fact that kids are going to be able to experience something outside the four walls of their houses, and parents are going to have the joys of seeing their kids run into the sea and splash around, and just the sheer joy that comes with creating memories together. That opportunity to give every family in the UK and beyond their own digital assistant that narrows down their choices and gives them exactly what they need and want to craft their perfect family holiday together. So I'm excited about that journey myself as well, because I can't wait to go on holiday.
I mean, I couldn't help but smile then when you were talking about, being able to watch little ones run into the sea again. And Karolina, to finish with you.
It's very hard to pick one element, because every day I wake up and I already look forward to what awaits me. So I think that's a great position, very privileged to be in. I think that I'm mostly looking forward to working with our new employees, new team members from around the world. We have an extremely diverse team, so I'm very proud of it. And definitely the international expansion, working in emerging market, is my passion. So I really very much looking forward to it.
Super. And that is an hour very, very, very quickly gone. Thank you to all three of you. You've been entertaining, insightful, and it's been a pleasure to hear from all of you. One of the things that I love about running Travel Massive in London is it gives me an excuse to pick up the phone and talk to really interesting people. So I've certainly enjoyed myself, and I'm sure everyone listening has as well. I also want to thank, behind the scenes, Maria. I know you don't like to come out from behind the scenes, but do you want to appear on screen? Take your virtual bow. No, Maria's going to ignore me, I know. Enter Maria. Maria is the Travel Massive chapter leader of Sophia. She also runs the tech for most of Travel Massive live streams. She also looks after our social media as well. And on top of that, she is a travel blogger as well. So thank you ever so much, Maria, for supporting me through this once again. Very, very much appreciated. And then my final thank you, of course, is to everyone who's tuned in from around the world today. Thank you ever so much for listening and for giving us your time. On travelmassive.com, you'll see there's a variety of events. You can watch previous events, or one of the positives of the virtual world we're in at the moment is we are doing lots of virtual events from all the different chapters. I think the Edinburgh chapter has an interesting one on travel tech coming up in the next few days, but do take a look on travelmassive.com. From a Travel Massive London perspective, I look forward to welcoming you all back soon. And in the meanwhile, stay safe. Take care. Thank you very much for listening.